Perfect. We're live. Okay, so good evening, everyone. If you guys could just give me a moment to actually get this in landscape mode, and then I can position it properly. I'm going to be putting down the phone, I think. Right, that's the positioning is still a bit off. Positioning is still a bit off. All right, guys, just give me a second. I've been trying this with quite a few of the devices that I have, and I'm still getting issues. So let me. Let's see. All right, so that's a little low. All right, I guess that will work. So, good evening, everyone. Okay, all right, I think I need to get something. Just give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. All right, so good evening, everyone. I have to first thank you guys for actually tuning in. And thanks for bearing with me. I must say, technology, though it gives us so many amazing opportunities, it does have its drawbacks. So without further ado, guys, we all know why we're here. We're going to be going through the prospectus for the TransJamaica Highway. Most of you would have already seen the flyer, and because this has been spoken about so much, most of you are already oh no, it's showing sideways. Wait, all right, I'm seeing hi there. You can turn the camera so we can see the right side of. Sorry about that. I have it in actual port. I think I have it. No, it's portrait. Okay. All right. So again, sorry about that. See, and then that's something that I would not have thought about because I was actually seeing the video in landscape mode, so I didn't know that. Low, Mr. Smith, thank you very much. Okay, great. So, I was saying earlier that, of course, the TransJamaica IPO has been in the media for some time, and a lot of persons on YouTube, a lot of personalities have covered it. If you guys are here just to find out the basics of the TransJamaica IPO, then I strongly suggest that you actually go and watch Kalila's video, as well as the interview that she did with the minister, because that goes into some of the overview material. What we're going to be talking about here are, as you would have seen from the flyer, is more the actual financials of the company, the growth projections, the opportunity, as well as the risk, and then we'll have a general Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, then feel free to put them in the comments, and I'll see it and I'll address it probably after going through some of these things. Sorry. Okay, thanks. All right, so I'm actually having one of my business partners assisting me here. All right, so we're going to start off by looking and I've actually gone through the prospectus already. I've made some highlights. Thanks. I've made some highlights, and those are the things that I'm going to talk about primarily, especially as it relates to the interim financial statements, the audited financial statements for 2019, as well as the financial statements for 2020. So let's start out by looking at the profitability of the company. And afterwards, I'll actually go into some of the details as it relates to the financial statement, primarily the balance sheet. But we're going to talk firstly about profitability, as this is one of the things that at the interim financial statements for the 9 months ended September 2019, what it shows clearly is an improvement in terms of the company's revenue. Now, revenue for the 9 months came in at 39 million US dollars. However, if you look at the bottom line, you will see that the net profit, being the total comprehensive income for the period, was down compared to the 9 months ended in September 2018. It's actually representing just a little under half of what that amount was, the net profit being 2.1 million US dollars. And so the first question that one might ask as a concern is primarily what happened to the revenues or to the net profits that would have resulted in the company recording a 50% decrease in terms of the net income for the period. And to address this, if you recall the notes to the audited financial statements, which are actually they begin on page 147, you'll see that for 2018, the company actually had what we could consider a one-off gain. Vibes Boss will actually get to that, all right? So Vibes Boss is asking if it's a good idea to invest in the highway stock, and that's really what we're talking about here. Disclaimer, how did I not start with that? So, for those of you guys who are actually tuning in, please note that I am not a licensed financial advisor. I'm an analyst, and so whatever I'm going to be covering within this video is for information as well as educational purposes. It is not an endorsement for anyone to actually go out and buy the TransJamaica stock on my account or based off what they see here. And it's certainly not an endorsement for the TransJamaica highway stock. The information I'm sharing is geared towards helping you guys to understand the finances of the company, understand the growth projections, and it is up to you to actually speak with your licensed financial advisor to make that decision as to whether or not you will participate in the IPO. Later on, I will talk about my 5 reasons why I'm participating in the IPO. Again, these are my reasons, and so your reasons as to whether or not you decide to participate will be different based on what your investment objectives are, what your investment risk are, risk tolerance is, as well as what your time horizon is on a company like this. All right, I'll spoil and say that firstly, I'm buying this because the first thing is that this is a company that is giving an internal rate of return that is higher compared to all of its peers within the asset class. The other thing is that this is a first of its kind in terms of the asset that is being listed on the stock exchange, and to me that's appealing, especially given the returns that I can expect by holding this company for the next 17 years. So with all of that in consideration, that's just one of my reasons as to why I'm participating in this IPO. Again, you will need to speak and consult with your licensed financial advisor to find out if this is actually a good pick for you or a good investment for you. All right, good. So we've gotten around that. So let's continue in terms of looking at the company's financials. And I may have to stop intermittently just to actually look at the comments that are coming in. So again, I'm asking you guys to bear with me for that. All right. All right. So we were explaining why it was that the company recorded lower revenues for the 9 months ended September 30th, 2019, as compared to the 9 months ended September 30th, 2018. And there's a note that actually explains this in the financial statements. It's note number 19, and it's on page number well, this is page number 175. It represents page 34 within the interim condensed report. All right. So looking at that, the net profit. Right. So if you go and actually look at note number 19 in the in the notes to the condensed financial statements for the 9 months ended September 30th, 2019, you'll see where the significant decrease was on account of two things primarily. First, the company recorded higher depreciation and amortization cost, as well as the finance cost in terms of expenses to the company were higher by about 30%. So in considering that, you can see why it is that the company's net profit would have been lower over that period. Remember also, we were saying that the revenues for 2018 were impacted by the work that was being done on Mandela, which would have caused or motivated more persons to use the Portmore leg of the highway, as opposed to just going through and staying through traffic on Mandela. Now that Mandela has been expanded and there is no longer so much road work that's going on, we should have expected more persons revert. Sorry, as opposed to using the Portmore leg of the highway used for this business. Looking at the revenues in terms of the projections for 2019, and you can actually find, projections for 2015. Right. So page 114, the revenues that were recorded for 2019 amounted to about $53 million with a net profit of $7.3 million. The adjusted net profit, however, was just $2.89 million. So what they've done in adjusting this is to actually take into account those one-off gains that would have actually been reported in terms of revenues from the 2018 roadworks that were being done on the Mandela Highway. So that's revenues. What am I expecting going forward? I'm expecting revenues to go up over the next few years, and I will be doing this live with the perspective that I'm buying TransJamaica for the next 17 years of the concession. I'm going to talk about why it is I'm using the 17 years and not so much focusing on the possibility of them what's the word I'm looking for? Reinstating the concession agreement thereafter. Spoiler alert again, it's because of the significant cost that it's going to take for them to actually repurchase that concession agreement. I'm not looking well beyond the 17-year horizon. So again, I'm buying into this and I'm analyzing it from the perspective that we have 17 years of operations going forward, okay? Alright, so where was I? Revenues, right. So the last thing I mentioned was the expectations for revenue. So revenues for 2019 adjusted were $2.89 million. My estimate for 2020 revenues is slightly higher. It's around $3.2 million. But I'm expecting, sorry, that's not revenues, that's net profits, guys. Net profits, I'm expecting to be around $3.2 to $3.3 million. But I'm also taking into account the fact that they will have excess funds from the IPO, and that's going to play into what the net profits will be. If you guys are wondering why it's not necessarily higher, it's because I understand that they will be making some significant payments using those funds from the IPO. Okay, so we've looked at revenues and again my expectations. If you go to page 116, you will see where the company talks about their financial projections, and they actually use a historical reference looking at the revenue growth from 2004 up until 2019. Now, the compounded annual growth rate would have been 3.8%. I'm not anticipating that we will see that growth rate continue for the period. In fact, I'm assuming that you're going to see some improvement in that growth rate. And if you look literally on the next page, you will see some of the drivers for that growth. So what are the things that are going to drive TransJamaica Highway Limited's growth? I should mention here that these things are not actually considered in terms of the projected revenue. And I should say rather that they're not fully considered in my view in terms of the projected revenues that we will see for the company. The first one, of course, is the improvements in terms of the amount of people who will be traversing the east-west legs of the highway. Most of you would have already been aware that there are plans for developments, additional developments within Old Harbour, as well as along Bernard Lodge. And I think also there's another development that's coming to Spanish Town. I cannot remember the name of it, but it's not stated in the prospectus. And this is not insider information by any means. It's just that I'm aware that it's there. So though the anticipated revenue is actually projected to be higher for, say, the next 3 years or 5 years, I could easily see revenues going up by, say, by another 30 or 40% on what 2019 reported revenues were over the next 5 years. And yes, I am taking into consideration the fact that there are going to be continued developments to the road network and to the alternative routes that persons will have to actually take them into and out of Kingston. All right. But my first assumption in making this projection is that the Bernard Lodge development, as well as the expansion of the housing schemes closer to Old Harbour, will actually result in more persons using the highways. And what's the key fundamental assumption that I'm making? If you look at these housing starts, you have to consider who is going to be able to afford these housing starts and actually where they might be employed or where they might be working. So my assumption is that most of these persons will be working in and around Kingston. If you're looking well along Spanish Town Road, coming closer into the actual corporate district, that's where I'm assuming most of these persons will be working. And so if they're living outside of Kingston,